Hey everybody, so this is going to be a different video than I normally post, but I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, Instagram, or just the web in general of some Christians sharing reasons why others might not want to get the COVID vaccine, specifically Christians. And I wanted to share my reasoning as to why I, a Christian, did decide to get the COVID vaccine. So first, I trust the science. And anyone who knows me knows that I am very particular about what I put into my body. So that is saying something. But what is the science, all right? So how vaccines traditionally work is by injecting someone with either a dead pathogen, a piece of a pathogen, or a weakened version of a pathogen so that your immune system is safely exposed to that pathogen and can begin to create and ramp up its defenses. Your immune system may actually get prepared to fight the real disease, but after a few weeks, that dies back down and leaves what's known as B lymphocytes or B cells, memory cells. These memory cells allow the body to much more rapidly produce antibodies if that pathogen is ever detected again. The mRNA vaccines are just an upgrade of this traditional method. So in the past, these pathogens had to be grown in a lab and then treated in whatever way was required to kill them, weaken them, or separate pieces of them for their respective vaccines. This often took years. With the mRNA vaccine, a piece of modified mRNA is injected into your body and tells your DNA to create that specific protein. So your body produces this protein that your own antibodies then fight off and will now create these B cells or memory cells of. For COVID-19, this was what was known as the spike protein. The spike protein is a very defining protein on the body of the virus itself, but does not contain the virus. So your body can learn how to defend against the virus without ever getting exposed to it. These mRNAs may have seemingly came out of nowhere and in a very convenient time, but in reality, research began on using mRNA as a medicine actually in 1971. In the early 1990s, research on mRNA vaccines first began. In 2005, scientists figured out how to keep the body from immediately destroying injected mRNA. And in 2018, the FDA approved the first medication that used a fatty shell from lipid nanoparticles as a way to get mRNA into cells. So it may have seemed like these brand new vaccines using totally new science came out of absolutely nowhere, but it's actually the culmination of 50 years of research that came together at the perfect time to save lives and stop a global pandemic. A lot of us may have seen these new out-of-nowhere vaccines and their timing framed as quite the coincidence. But what if the 50 years of research culminating upon right now, when it was desperately needed, is actually part of God's perfect timing? If you want more details on the science of how the mRNA vaccines work and their development, please watch some of the videos linked in this video's description. Long-term effects are also often cited as a concern, but one of the best things about mRNA vaccines is that the mRNA itself gets destroyed by the body very quickly. So the body does produce antibodies for these spike proteins, but these also very quickly go away, and all that is left is that B cell, that memory cell, to remember the pathogen. mRNA medications have been used and passed clinical trials for cancer immunotherapy and have passed phase 1 and phase 2 testing for HIV, rabies, Zika, and the flu. So if you get the COVID vaccine, you are not the human guinea pig for mRNA. The second point is also very important to me, because as a Christian, I firmly believe that the number one thing the Bible tells me to do in response to Jesus' sacrifice is to love everyone unconditionally. So I could go through about 30 verses in the New Testament alone detailing this, let alone the fact that we are told to try and live like Christ, and Christ sacrificed his own body to save us all in the grandest and purest display of unconditional love that this world has and will ever see. But I will spare you all of that and instead ask you to watch my video called Defining Characteristics, Are You Known by Your Love, to see more about that. However, to push the ball along a little more, I will share 3 verses. 1 John 14:4-16 says, God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. 1 Corinthians 16:14 says, do everything in love. And Jesus himself says in John 14:34, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. So because of this belief in the importance of love, I try to look at difficult situations and decide what is the most loving thing that I can do. In this case, I naturally want to go back to the idea that I'm young, healthy, and other than minor asthma, not in the high risk category. So I don't really need to put anything else into my body. However, I know that I come in direct or indirect contact with many high risk individuals on a daily or weekly basis. What I believe is most loving for me to do in this instance is to put their health above my desire to keep unnatural things out of my body, even to the point of putting their health above mine if something were to go wrong. Again, I would like to stress that I do 100% trust the science and the vaccine and do not believe that there will be any long-term negative effects from this vaccine. But if there are, I will rest easy knowing that I made a decision based on what I firmly believe is the most important thing I can do as a Christian, to love others completely. This is a decision that I had to make for myself, and you'll have to make for yourself. I highly encourage you to pray about it, talk to doctors and scientists, discuss it with your family, or even reach out to me about it. But when it came to me getting the vaccine, I decided that the extent that I show love to others will not be held back by fear of unknown and unlikely side effects.